Okay, well, let's move on and talk about those teams that we can be critical of. I saw your tweet about Leicester during the weekend.
I mean, there may be others, I don't know, but Leicester absolutely wound me up, because here's a guy in Claude Puel that, I don't know if it's a 50-50 split in the Leicester fans, it may be even more than that don't like him, that don't like his style and want him out. And he always seems to be a game or two away from that happening, and then he goes on a run where he beats City, he beats Chelsea, loses to Cardiff, albeit, which is a disaster, and then beats Everton. So he's kind of back in the good books. They're above mid-table. They're probably going to finish mid-table at worst. They're never going to be relegated. And he plays a weakened team in the FA Cup. I mean, I'm sorry, if there's one way to get back on side of supporters is put a cup run together. Now, if you're telling me that all they want to do is finish a position or two further up the Premier League because they've got a bit of extra cash in their pocket, then it's a disgrace. And quite frankly, the Leicester fans calling for his head, and there have been a few today, I'm not surprised. Not surprised.
Claude Puel's not on his own, is he? We've seen over the years. Managers do this for no... It boggles the mind. Safe in mid-table.
Mid-table, yeah.
Well, yet, for some reason, you're rotating your team.
Yeah, I mean, there are certainties. Leicester, Everton, Watford, I think, they're not going to go down. They're not going to finish in the European places. They have to focus on the FA Cup and the League Cup. Now, I think maybe 2 years ago, West Brom were in a similar position. They were well safe. They were top 7-8. They lost in the third round. They rested players. And their season ended in January. But from that point on, the malaise set in. And 12 months later, Pulis was gone because he couldn't get it back. I think when you switch off and you have nothing to play for, the fans turn off, the fans get fed up with the style of football. And that's going to happen to Puel, isn't it? The fans are going to say, well, what are you going to give us? Look at this football you're giving us, it's not really great to watch. You're not giving us any trophies. And that's where he's put loads of pressure on himself now by not taking his cup seriously, because if you're in the FA Cup, you insulate yourself from the fans being unhappy because you've got the potential of winning something. What have Leicester fans got now? Maybe Europa League, maybe, probably not. Nothing.
One of the great privileges that we have in working with guys like Craig and Stevie and Shaq and Paul Mariner is their stories of FA Cup competition.
Yep.
And the magic of the FA Cup, and Stevie will tell stories, and it's fantastic, right? To be at that time, to be at that moment. Because now, an outsider looking in, somebody who did not play in this competition, who has no ties to this competition, it's impossible to take it seriously if teams like Leicester, like Everton, like Watford, that have nothing to lose, don't take the competition to a point to where it's significant. If it's not significant to them, how is it going to be significant to somebody who has no ties to it? The truth of the matter is that magic of the FA Cup that I can relate when these guys are telling stories, and I can appreciate, those stories are coming to an end with the FA Cup simply because unless there are teams that are willing to take the competition seriously, then in the end, I don't know how significant the competition is.
It used to be we would blame foreign managers, but it's like the British guys are at it as well. Right? It's just not the foreign guys now. I heard the West Ham fan actually in the car on the way in on UK radio, and I thought, my God, you're right. He said, I'm a West Ham fan, and all the times in recent years where West Ham, they've been up, they've been down, they've been up and down from the Premier League to the Championship, and he said, my biggest disappointment is not the relegations, is the time when Shaq was playing and they lost to Liverpool in the FA Cup final. He said it was the most gutting day I've ever had. And now, what do you have? You got mid-table mediocrity, not even putting a strong team out against Newport County. It's a scandal.
Let's take a look, shall we, at the fourth round draw. It's thrown up one very interesting tie. At the top of your page there, it will be Arsenal against Manchester United. Elsewhere, nothing else quite jumps out at you, but obviously...
I'm not Barnett against Brentford, no?
If you're a Newport supporter...
Don't cast it all.
A Premier League side, but it will be Newport against Middlesbrough. But for Arsenal against United, obviously a game they both have to take seriously.
Yeah, it's a really big one, isn't it? And these are the two clubs that might sneak into the top four, they might not, but they both... Yeah. I think the record FA Cup winners, Arsenal 13, United 12, so these two clubs have always taken it seriously, apart from when United pulled out in 2000, of course. but it matters to the clubs in terms of the history, and both managers would happily take a trophy. It's a massive tie, and I think that you look at that run of games, and it's not the most appealing fourth round draw, but that really stands out as the game.
It certainly does, and as we're saying,
as if it was the hot and cold balls again, and the old keep the big boys apart.
What, you've got two big boys together now?
Well, there's not enough of them, is there? That's not the most glamorous of draws.
But let's focus on the positive bit, Arsenal United.
Well, that'll be the TV game for sure. United are always on anyway. But look, for Unai Emery and potentially for Solskjaer, it could be big. But for Unai Emery, top four is going to be difficult. But Arsenal have had a good period in the FA Cup. I mean, it kept, rightly or wrongly, it kept Arsene Wenger bubbling over for a few more years because he could say, well, we've won the FA Cup. So I think he'll play. I think both will play strong teams going into it.